More than 1,000 Starbucks unionized baristas in over 40 U.S. cities launched an indefinite strike on Thursday, intensifying their push for a collective bargaining agreement over increasing pay and staffing levels. Ray Shao is a supervisor at this downtown Manhattan location.
What we're asking for is pretty simple and basic. We want enough hours to meet the benefits. We want enough staffing in our stores so we're not overworked, and we want to be...
Starbucks may still look like America's coffee king, but its empire has been quietly losing ground. While customers paid premium prices for customization, atmosphere, and the power of that green logo, Dunkin crossed 10,000 U.S. stores and gained momentum by selling what Starbucks seemed to forget: speed, value, and routine. So did Dunkin beat Starbucks, or did Starbucks overprice its own identity? Stay until the end, because the latest comeback numbers completely change the verdict. Before we reveal those numbers, choose your side in the comments, Starbucks or Dunkin, and see whether your answer survives the next 8 minutes.
Chapter 1. Two Different American Dreams.
Dunkin began in Quincy, Massachusetts in 1950. Its promise was practical: coffee, donuts, breakfast, and a fast return to your day. Starbucks arrived in Seattle in 1971, but its real revolution came later. It did not simply sell coffee. It sold the third place, somewhere between home and work. Customized drinks, names on cups, Wi-Fi, and the feeling that coffee could be an experience. Dunkin sells the morning routine. Starbucks sells the meaning attached to it. Be honest, when you buy Starbucks, are you paying for the coffee or for the feeling of carrying Starbucks?
Chapter 2. The Business Model Nobody Sees.
The stores may look similar, but financially, these companies are built almost opposite ways. Starbucks controls thousands of company-operated U.S. stores and uses licensed locations in airports and grocery stores. More control brings more revenue per sale, but also more labor, rent, equipment, and risk. Dunkin is franchise-driven. Local operators invest in stores, hire workers, pay operating costs, and send fees and royalties back to the brand. That lets Dunkin expand without funding every store. But franchising can also create inconsistent prices, service, and policies between locations. Starbucks can redesign service quickly across its own stores, but every improvement raises corporate costs. Dunkin can expand faster through franchise capital, yet customer experience may vary from one operator to another. Which system would you trust more? Corporate control or thousands of franchisees?
Chapter 3. The Numbers Started Moving.
By fiscal 2025, Starbucks had 40,990 stores worldwide and nearly 17,000 in the United States. It generated about $37.2 billion in annual revenue. Dunkin was smaller globally, but it crossed 10,000 U.S. stores. Starbucks remained larger, but the trend became uncomfortable. According to Technomic data reported in January 2026, Starbucks' share of spending at U.S. coffee shops fell from 52% in 2023 to 48% in 2025. Dunkin gained share in both years. That does not mean Dunkin became bigger. It means customers were spreading money across alternatives, and Dunkin benefited. With 2/3 of Americans drinking coffee daily, even a few percentage points represent millions of routines changing hands. Neither company competes alone. Dutch Bros, Scooters, 7 Brew, McDonald's, convenience stores, and independent cafes are fighting for the same morning purchase, making every lost customer harder to recover.
Chapter 4. Money, Pressure, and the Price of Premium.
Starbucks' fiscal 2025 revenue reached a record, but the company was paying heavily for a turnaround. In its final quarter, it recorded $755 million in restructuring charges, announced around 900 corporate layoffs, and closed 627 stores. Quarterly profit fell sharply. Dunkin's financials are harder to inspect. Inspire Brands bought Dunkin brands for $11.3 billion in December 2020, taking it private. Dunkin no longer publishes a standalone income statement comparable with Starbucks. In May 2026, Inspire confidentially filed for a U.S. IPO. Its 33,000-plus restaurants include many brands, not only Dunkin. Precise current Dunkin revenue claims therefore rely on estimates, unlike audited Starbucks results.
Chapter 5. Quality versus Value.
Here is the statistic that explains the rivalry better than store count. In a May 2026 YouGov comparison of U.S. out-of-home coffee drinkers, Starbucks led on perceived quality, while Dunkin led by a wide margin on value. That split is more revealing than any taste test. Starbucks wins when customers ask which feels more premium. Dunkin wins when they ask which makes sense every morning. Starbucks offers customization but can create longer lines and higher tickets. Dunkin emphasizes grab-and-go simplicity. Which matters more at 7:30 in the morning, the perfect drink or getting to work on time?
Chapter 6. The controversies behind the counter.
November 13th, 2025, Starbucks Red Cup Day. More than 1,000 unionized baristas launched an open-ended strike beginning at 65 stores in over 40 cities. Workers demanded better pay, staffing, hours, and a first contract. By Black Friday, the union said the action had expanded to more than 120 stores. Starbucks responded that 99% of U.S. locations remained open and said it was ready to negotiate. Dunkin faced different backlash. On July 29, 2025, its King of Summer advertisement used a line about genetics to describe an actor's tan. Critics connected it to debates about beauty and race. Dunkin did not answer Reuters' request for comment. Then, in November 2025, an alleged internal guide circulated online suggesting iced drinks should follow fixed fill lines even when customers requested less ice. Some called it shrinkflation. Others said extra liquid should cost extra. Dunkin did not publicly confirm the document. One brand was fighting over labor, the other was fighting over value perception. Which controversy damages trust more?
Chapter 7. The Twist. Starbucks came back.
Just when the story looked like a Dunkin victory, Starbucks produced a serious rebound. For the quarter ending March 29, 2026, Starbucks reported U.S. comparable sales growth of 7.1%, its second consecutive domestic increase after 7 quarters of flat or declining results. Quarterly revenue rose 9% to approximately $9.5 billion. Its Back to Starbucks strategy increased staffing, simplified operations, and restored cafe atmosphere. Dunkin did not knock Starbucks out. It forced Starbucks to remember what made it powerful.
Did Dunkin win?
The honest answer depends on the scoreboard. Starbucks still wins on scale, global reach, reported revenue, and perceived quality. Dunkin wins on value, franchise-powered U.S. expansion, convenience, and momentum in America's everyday coffee routine. Dunkin did not become larger. It exposed Starbucks' weakness. Premium branding becomes fragile when customers stop believing the premium is worth paying. But Starbucks' 2026 recovery proves the war is not over. Now give your verdict. Did Dunkin genuinely beat Starbucks, or did it pressure Starbucks into becoming better? Comment, Dunkin won, Starbucks still rules, or explain why the scoreboard itself is wrong. Subscribe to Production Pathway for the next food brand investigation, because the most dangerous rival is not always the company that becomes bigger, Sometimes it is the company that forces you to change.